There is a reason ancient mystics warned of spirits in bottles. It was never just about intoxication, but infiltration. What if I told you that alcohol, the most socially accepted substance in the world, has a far deeper story, one that predates empires and temples, and reaches into the very fabric of spiritual warfare? That behind the clink of glasses and the numbing warmth lies something older, something hidden in plain sight. This isn't just another video telling you alcohol is bad for your health. No, you're about to hear the truth that most spiritual teachers fear to speak, the one that whispers through ancient scrolls, the one known by the priests of Egypt, the yogis of India, and the desert prophets who walked with fire in their veins. Why is it called spirits? Why does intoxication make people feel both invincible and hollow, euphoric and haunted? Why did shamans only use fermented brews for sacred, guided journeys, but warned never to use them without purpose or protection? You see, alcohol is not just a chemical, it's a frequency. A portal. A vibration that tunes the soul into a different broadcast, and not always a divine one. In this video, we will journey through time and mystery, uncovering the hidden history of alcohol and its connection to spiritual descent. What ancient civilizations truly believed about fermented substances. The esoteric mechanics of what happens to your aura, your energy field, when you drink. And most importantly, what you can do to reclaim your clarity, your sovereignty, and your spiritual alignment. By the end of this video, you won't see alcohol the same way ever again. In fact, you may begin to wonder if you've ever truly made the choice to drink. Or if something else chose for you. The veil is about to lift. Are you ready to see? To understand the relationship between alcohol and spirituality, we must go back, far beyond modern bars and breweries, beyond medieval taverns and Roman feasts, and into the dawn of civilization itself. The story of alcohol is not merely one of indulgence or celebration. It is one interwoven with the rise and fall of human consciousness. In the temples of ancient Egypt, fermented drinks were used in highly controlled rituals, never casually. The priesthoods understood that the altered state induced by alcohol opened the human vessel to both higher and lower realms. These initiates, trained in the sacred sciences, knew that without intention, the use of such substances could invite in what they called kafet, dark entities that fed on confusion, despair, and lust. The Greeks too, though they honored Dionysus, god of wine and ecstasy, understood that his rites were double-edged. His followers could attain moments of divine madness, but also fall into moral ruin. The line between ecstasy and delusion was razor-thin. In Vedic India, the Rigveda speaks of soma, a divine elixir used not for intoxication, but communion. This sacred drink was consumed by sages in sacred ceremonies to reach altered states of awareness and receive celestial wisdom. But again, it was approached with reverence and precision, not recklessness. Over time, as humanity drifted further from the divine center, the sacred context eroded, and substances that were once conduits to higher understanding became tools for escapism. Alcohol, stripped of its ritual discipline, became widespread, and with that, the gates were opened. What the ancients seemed to agree upon was this: any substance that alters consciousness also alters access. Access to what? To dimensions of thought and feeling that are normally filtered by the soul's natural boundaries, boundaries that protect us from unseen interference. Alcohol, when taken without sacred protection, loosens those barriers. The question is, who or what walks through when they fall? In Gnostic and early Christian mysticism, there is reference to archonic forces, beings who prey upon human weakness, siphoning energy when we are most unguarded. They are described not as monsters, but as subtle deceivers, whispering temptations and confusion into the minds of the vulnerable. Could it be that the lowering of consciousness through alcohol creates fertile ground for these forces? That when our aura is fractured, our will diluted, and our memory blurred, we become easier to manipulate, not just by others, but by energies we cannot see? Even the word alcohol carries an echo of the mystical. The term originates from the Arabic al-kul, which referred not only to a cosmetic powder but also to a distillation process. Later Islamic alchemists used the term to describe the extraction of a spirit from matter. Etymologically, some esoteric scholars trace al-kul to mean the body-eating spirit, a poetic yet chilling interpretation. In traditional Sufi teachings, wine was used metaphorically to describe the intoxicating love of God, but literal drinking was forbidden. Why? Because the inner ecstasy, when pursued externally, becomes a counterfeit, dangerous and disorienting. Through this historical lens, we see a repeating pattern. Alcohol is not evil in itself, but it is never neutral. In the hands of the wise, it was treated as a potent instrument. In the hands of the unaware, it became a silent thief, stealing presence, draining life force, and severing the connection between soul and source. And yet, society today reveres it. It is at weddings and funerals, in triumph and sorrow, woven into every celebration and every coping mechanism. But this was not always so. There was a time when elders warned, when initiates fasted, and when communion with spirit required purity, not intoxication. The shift from sacred reverence to casual consumption mirrors a deeper forgetting. A spiritual amnesia. So the question we must ask is not merely, should I drink? But rather, what do I lose each time I surrender to the spirit in the bottle? And who or what gains control in my absence? To grasp what alcohol truly does to the human spirit, we must shift from the historical to the metaphysical. Forget the science for a moment, forget liver toxicity, hangovers, and addiction statistics. Let us enter the unseen world, the inner world, where consciousness meets energy, and where decisions ripple far beyond the material. In spiritual traditions across time, the body is often described as a vessel, a chalice, a temple. Not metaphorically, but literally, a structure designed to house and transmit divine energy. Our thoughts, emotions, even the electricity in our cells, these are not random. They are frequencies that hold form because of coherence, a kind of sacred order. When we are sober, not merely in body, but in spirit, this vessel maintains its structure. The aura is luminous, the mind is clear, and the soul has full access to its voice. But alcohol, even in small amounts, begins to dissolve this coherence. It is subtle at first. A loosening of inhibition. A softening of perception. But what we call relaxation is often the quiet numbing of intuition. What we call confidence is often the temporary silencing of the inner voice that warns, this is not you. The soul speaks in whispers, alcohol drowns it in fog. Esoterically, alcohol acts as a veil. Not a protective one, but a distorting one. It disrupts the flow of chi, or prana, the life force, and in its place, it invites in fragmented energies. It pulls the vibration of the body downward, and in doing so, tunes the consciousness to lower astral frequencies. This is not theory, it is observable by those who are sensitive to energy. A person under the influence does not merely act differently, they radiate differently. Their light dims. Their field becomes porous. They are open, vulnerable, receptive not to divine inspiration, but to suggestion and infiltration. This is why alcohol is referred to as spirits. The term did not originate by accident. Alchemically, distillation was seen as the extraction of spirit from matter. But there is a dual meaning here. As the alcohol enters the body, the person's own spirit recedes slightly, and in that absence, other spirits, other energies, can enter. They may be ancestral echoes, psychic residues, or disembodied entities attracted to chaos and confusion. In shamanic traditions, these are known as walk-ins or attachments. And once they've found a home, they don't always leave when the hangover ends. This is why alcohol has long been associated not just with altered states, but with violence, despair, and possession. How often have you heard someone say, "That wasn't me, I don't know what came over me"? How often has someone laughed off blackouts, unaware that during those hours, they were not merely unconscious, but unguarded? Even in more innocent settings, parties, weddings, casual drinks, something subtle is still happening. Alcohol dampens the magnetic field of the heart. It clouds the pineal gland, the seat of spiritual sight. It dulls the antenna that connects you to higher truth. Over time, repeated consumption frays the energetic matrix that surrounds the body, weakening willpower, obscuring clarity, and allowing patterns of addiction, anxiety, and apathy to take root. These are not just psychological issues, they are spiritual symptoms of disconnection. And yet, alcohol is not presented as dangerous. Quite the opposite, it is marketed as liberation. It is glamorized as romance, celebration, even sophistication. But this is the great inversion. The deeper truth is this: alcohol mimics transcendence. It offers a counterfeit version of spiritual expansion, a synthetic bliss that comes not from inner growth, but from chemical bypass. You feel more connected, more alive, more open, but it's a trick. You are not elevated, you are disoriented. You are not free, you are suspended, drifting between dimensions without an anchor. This is why spiritual awakening and alcohol rarely walk hand in hand. The moment you begin to see clearly, to hear your soul without distortion, alcohol starts to feel foreign, like an old language your spirit no longer understands. There is a reason so many on the spiritual path feel called to release it, not because of guilt or dogma, but because their body and soul simply say, "No more." They recognize the false light. They feel the interference. And they begin to crave what alcohol can never provide, true presence. So now we must ask, what is it within us that craves the distortion in the first place? What wounds? What voids? What ancestral patterns or cultural programs keep us reaching for the very thing that pulls us further from ourselves? That answer lies deeper still. To truly understand alcohol's grip on the soul, we must go deeper, not into the glass, but into the shadow. Because at its core, alcohol is not simply a substance, it is a symbol. A mirror. And what it reflects is the unhealed longing within humanity, the longing for escape, for oblivion, for the temporary death of pain. Why do we reach for alcohol when we are grieving, stressed, lonely, or celebrating? Because somewhere along the line, we were taught that joy must be heightened and sorrow must be silenced, that the rawness of life is too much to bear on its own. And so we reach for the liquid lullaby, the elixir that dulls the edges of our wounds. But here's the paradox: the more we try to escape our pain, the more power it gains over us. The shadows we avoid do not vanish, they grow in silence, in secrecy. And alcohol is one of the most socially accepted ways we hide from ourselves. Yet, the spiritual path is not about avoidance. It is about illumination. About facing the very parts of ourselves that ache, tremble, and yearn for wholeness. Alcohol short-circuits that process. It puts a veil between you and your inner healer. It numbs the messenger and leaves the message undelivered. And this is no coincidence. In fact, from an esoteric standpoint, alcohol has been weaponized. Not in an overtly malicious way, but in a far more insidious form, through cultural normalization. The greatest deceptions are never forced, they are chosen freely, even joyfully. And so society glorifies the weekend binge, the celebration toast, the just one glass mantra, until it becomes ritual. Yes, ritual. Because make no mistake, drinking is a ritual. The question is, to what are you offering your energy when you partake? Many ancient spiritual systems teach that energy flows where attention goes. Every action, every thought, every substance introduced into the body is an offering. A vibration. A signal. And alcohol sends a very specific signal: I am open to disconnection. I choose to forget. This does not make someone evil or weak, it makes them human. But it is precisely this tendency that certain spiritual forces exploit. Let's speak plainly. There are energies in this universe that feed on unconsciousness. Some call them archons, others refer to them as egregores or astral parasites. These beings do not appear in horror films, they operate in frequency. They whisper self-doubt. They magnify fear. They ride the wave of lowered consciousness, attaching themselves to the cracks in our aura. And what opens those cracks more reliably than anything else? Alcohol. This is not metaphorical. Energetic practitioners, shamans, and sensitives around the world have reported witnessing shifts in a person's field the moment they become intoxicated. Lights go dim. Shadows move in. Even the person's eyes, once bright, become vacant. Hollow. As if something has stepped aside, and something else has stepped in. Now consider this. Why do so many spiritual traditions require sobriety before initiation? Why must shamans fast and cleanse before entering ceremony? Why did the prophets withdraw into the wilderness, purging all worldly intoxicants before receiving divine revelation? Because clarity is sacred. Because consciousness is the currency of the soul. And anything that alters that consciousness without sacred intent becomes a theft. But here's where it gets even more mysterious. For some, alcohol is not just a tool of escape, it becomes a tool of transformation, after destruction. Many have hit rock bottom through addiction, only to rise into awakening. Why? Because the darkness revealed the contrast. Because the false light eventually burned them so thoroughly that they had no choice but to seek the true one. In that way, alcohol can paradoxically become a catalyst, not through its consumption, but through the consequences it brings. Pain, when faced, can become a teacher. But that is the hard road. The road of fire. There is another path. The path of awareness. The path where the veil is lifted before catastrophe. Where the spirit within you stirs, not out of desperation, but out of remembrance. This is the essence of awakening, to reclaim what you once gave away, to remember what you once chose to forget. And so the deeper truth emerges, not just about alcohol, but about ourselves, that we were never meant to numb. We were meant to feel, to face, to alchemize, and through that sacred confrontation, to transform. Now, the question becomes, how do we begin that transformation? How do we restore what's been dimmed? How do we walk out of the fog and into clarity? That, dear seeker, is where we now turn. You may be feeling something stirring within you now, a quiet recognition, a subtle inner knowing. Not from guilt or fear, but from truth resonating in the body like a forgotten melody. If alcohol, as we've explored, is not merely a drink but a spiritual interference, then the next question is not simply, should I stop, but, how do I return to myself? Because abstaining is not enough. What matters is healing what made you reach for it in the first place. Begin here, with sacred pause. Before your next drink, or the urge for one, sit in silence. No distractions. No judgment. Place your hand over your heart and ask it, gently, what am I really thirsty for? The answers may surprise you. Often, the craving isn't for alcohol, it's for connection. For relief. For celebration. For silence. For softness. For the dissolving of masks and the loosening of grief. Alcohol imitates these states, but you can experience the real thing. Without poison. Without fragmentation. Here's a powerful ritual you can begin today. Simple, but profoundly alchemical. Each evening, light a candle. Let it represent your awakened awareness. Sit in front of it with no intention other than to be present. As you watch the flame, breathe deeply. Inhale clarity. Exhale distortion. Feel your soul returning. With each breath, silently repeat, I call my spirit back to me. Say it 3 times. Say it like a spell. Because it is. This may sound small. But it's not. This is how you reclaim sovereignty, moment by moment. Flame by flame. Next, clear your space. Alcohol leaves residues, not only in the body, but in the energetic field of your home. Smudge the corners with sage or Palo Santo. Play high vibrational frequencies. 432 Hz or 528 Hz are powerful allies. Speak aloud an invocation if you feel called. Something like, I cleanse this space of all remnants of disconnection. I release all spirits that do not serve my highest good. I call in light, truth, and protection. This isn't performance, it's sacred housekeeping. But let's go deeper still. If you've used alcohol as a balm for emotional wounds, begin to confront those wounds with compassion. Journaling is a potent mirror. Each day, ask yourself, what am I avoiding? What does my pain want me to know? Write without censoring. Let the ink carry your hidden truths to the surface. Healing is messy, divine alchemy always is. Craving connection? Replace drinking rituals with sacred gatherings. Find others who are on the path, people who are not escaping, but embodying. Host sober circles. Share stories. Dance without needing to numb. Sing with no filter. Remember that joy does not require intoxication, only presence. And if you feel the presence of darker energies, if you've sensed attachments, oppressive thoughts, or parasitic emotions, call upon protection. Archangel Michael, in many traditions, is known as the defender of light. Before sleep, invoke him with these words or your own. Archangel Michael, protector of the awakened, I ask for your sword of light to sever all cords that do not belong to me. Clear my field. Seal my energy. Restore me to truth. You may feel a shift, a release, a return. Also, honor your physical body. Detox not just for health, but as a spiritual act. Drink living water. Bathe in salt. Touch the earth barefoot. Move your body as prayer. Let your sobriety be not a punishment, but a homecoming. And remember, falling off the path doesn't mean failure. It means there is still more to learn. More to heal. More to love within yourself. You are not weak for struggling. You are strong for choosing to see. Sobriety is not a sterile thing. It's a luminous thing. A brave, radiant stance in a world that profits off your forgetfulness. To walk this path is to choose clarity over illusion. It is to declare, in the face of a seductive spell, I choose to feel. I choose to face. I choose to awaken. You are not alone in this. Many are rising. Quietly. Powerfully. Lighting candles in the dark. You are one of them. So now, we arrive at the final turning point, not of the video, but of your inner dialogue. The veil has been lifted, not to condemn you, but to offer you vision. What you've just uncovered is not another moral lecture or a hollow warning. It is a sacred invitation. A calling back to the essence of who you are beneath the layers of conditioning, pain, celebration, and self-medication. You have not simply learned about alcohol. You have seen what lies behind it, and what it has kept you from seeing within yourself. Because this was never about the drink. Not really. It was always about what the drink represents, a choice point between presence and numbness, between forgetting and remembering, between giving your power away and claiming it back like a sword of fire in your hand. In ancient times, initiates were not judged for their vices, they were tested by them. Could they face the temptation and still remember who they were? Could they walk through the shadowlands of distraction, glamour, and false light, and return carrying wisdom, not wounds? That is the very path you stand on now, and you do not walk it alone. You are part of a quiet revolution. A sacred rebellion. A remembering. There are thousands, perhaps millions, like you, people who are waking up, shedding the illusions, and choosing to feel again, to see clearly, and to live consciously. Together, we are the torchbearers in a dim world. We are the ones who say, I will no longer offer my spirit to anything that dims it. So let me leave you with this. The next time you hold a drink, do not ask, will this make me feel better? Ask instead, will this help me remember who I am? And if the answer is silence, deep, radiant, sacred silence, then you already know. This is the last video you'll ever need on alcohol and spirituality, because the wisdom isn't in the words, it's in the awakening that just began inside you. Now, if this message resonated with something ancient in your soul, share it. Let others find the path. Light their candle with yours. And when you do, remember, the brightest lights are born when the fog finally clears. Until next time, walk in clarity, walk in truth, and walk in your power.